The Older Woman, the direction of Khadijah, September 2020, chapter 5.2. Some say she was about 40 to 45, and other historians and scholars had her at ages ranging from 27 to 30 when she met her final husband. One scholar even points out that at 40 she had given up on the idea of marriage before meeting him. She had other trust issues and rejected the proposals of very prominent and wealthy men like Abu Sufyan and Abu Lahab, who would later become the great enemies of her future husband and his movement. I think it would be better to describe her as cautious. Either way, she was older than him. She was either 2 or 20 years older, since they all agreed that he was 25 when they met and married. People in those days got married as soon as they got their periods, hit puberty, or if male, then able to provide either through inheritance or earnings, and were often engaged as children. Also, it's possible that the Arab climate was unkind to anyone aging at any rate and already added years. Being the wealthiest person doesn't necessarily help when there is a lack of products and treatments to assist with the signs of aging. There was a celebrity who married another actor who was 15 years her junior. She had gone through an intense process of fitness training, plastic surgery, skin treatments, hair extensions, diet, supplements, and a long list of dental repairs, which included adult braces, caps, bleaching, and replacing certain teeth. A lot of energy and focus went into the glamour of her appearance, which was no doubt impressive to Hollywood with its values evolving around image. Khadijah didn't have those advantages, but her focus was on business, community, and relationships, not her image. If Khadijah lost a tooth, which we know she might have according to certain accounts, then it was gone, and that was that. And yet she was still remembered and adored for the beautiful person she was. The actress admitted in her book that she was underdeveloped in inner maturity, perhaps due to her vocation and the environment she was in. She was concerned with being a cool woman instead of a quality woman. She may have been watching a few relationship coaches on YouTube who have all discussed this concept extensively. To be fair, she also suffered a horrendous trauma in her youth that may have contributed to her disproportionate insecurities. The cool woman is the woman who wants to be liked and will drop her standards to do so, and the quality woman commands respect and upholds her standards to be so. Khadijah was a quality woman and a woman of character with good standards. She was attractive even in her natural aging, which may have added to her appeal as the fine lines of spiritual beauty creep through the fading of youth. She was popular and had many proposals, but was selective and careful. Her well-established self-esteem, nobility, and grace added to that beauty of the soul that shines eternal. She was the people's princess with a green canopy to represent her interest in charity and giving. She was also known as Taahirah because she was known to be pure and decent. She used that same professional instinct to find not just a suitable mate, but the best man while she proceeded with a chaste spirit, safeguarding her dignity with wisdom. Her reputation as a quality woman of beauty and self-esteem was solidified further by the way she positioned herself professionally. She was never alone during the day with a team of staff working for her and bearing witness to her chastity. As much as her reputation preceded her, so too did his reputation. Enter the love interest. He was a shepherd at 18, then later a broker for his uncle Abu Talib and knew her sister. He was even consulted regarding which tribe should place the black stone in the Kaaba. He was known as honest, straight, trustworthy, and loyal. She liked the sound of him and had enough reason to give him a chance to prove himself with his new venture. Recently, there was a local 18-year-old called Apiwe who started a taxi service just for women, but it closed down because men in the industry were threatening her. So even if a woman can provide for herself, there is the matter of protection then and now. Khadijah sent one of her men with him to Syria and other areas to trade, and not only did he do well, but she received positive feedback as to how well he did with customers. He gave off a feeling of genuine concern and empathy, which made him well liked while being client-centric. Of course, this virtue spills over into good marital practices as it all boils down to meeting needs. He wasn't a tit-for-tat kind of man, but someone who gave that little bit, if not a whole lot more extra. She saw in him a true leader and not just a manager. His charity and growth piqued her intrigue, and she was interested in the proven results of what he offered. Both were very monotheistic, and that too was part of the attraction, as any person of faith can testify. The big mistake women make in choosing partners without the consultation of their male relatives is that they will consider a man's potential and ignore the facts. Most men, or at least the good ones, have it in their DNA to want to be the knights that prove themselves worthy and not just the subject of some silly girl fantasy. Khadijah was no dumb girl. No. And much like in Steve Harvey's book, Act Like a Lady and Think Like a Man, well, let's just say that there's nothing he could have taught her. If anything, he would have invited her on his show and taken notes had he had the chance to know her well or know of her. Besides monitoring Muhammad's professional conduct and good manners, she would have observed his body language, the way he was always upright with good posture, and the way he walked with purpose. When he turned to face someone, he did so with his whole body facing that person and making them feel exclusive at that moment with his complete attention. His features were easy on the onlooker, with his relaxed eyes, open and alert, with a polite smile that was perfumed with the energy of warm sincerity. Are you in love yet? There may have been a slight introverted thinking frown that said, I'm listening and I care about you. There was a quiet friendliness and a confidence about him. This natural charm didn't just win over the clients, but the lady investor as well. Although historically men would hunt in solitary pursuits, the hunter would leave his tribe as a loner in pursuit of his prey and navigate through the wilderness with his instincts sharpened, bringing him in oneness with the soul of nature and its submissive stillness. He is wired to feel this way through tracks until he spots his prey while using those same spidey senses to avoid becoming prey to something else. He spots it, he lines up his shot, and calms himself before aiming. These are the natural rhythms of men which persist to this day. Men seem to gravitate towards this, whether it's in business, sport, or romance. It's almost as if he is trying to return to the fitra state of his cellular ancestry. Women hunted too, but were more involved in communal hunting near the village and were more likely to set traps around the village. The huntresses were also juggling a variety of other activities while waiting for their prey. Again, that seems to be the natural order for women. But the problem is that women are so busy trying to be men currently that they disconnect from the instincts of their cellular memory, which rewards them for a smooth alignment in conduct. A wise woman is more like a Venus flytrap, waiting patiently than a charging carnivore who scares off rather than catches anything. Khadijah has too much dignity and class to walk up to her love interest and say, Hey, I like you, let's get married. Even someone as lovely and as approachable as Muhammad might have felt some reservations regarding that. To better explain her approach, I'm going to tell you about the advice a relationship coach gave to a woman whose husband was ignoring her in favor of watching soccer. The coach explained that in ballroom dancing, the man is traditionally the leader because he is stronger than the female. If both try to lead, then there would be conflict, so only one can be the leader, and it's the man because he can hold himself and her. But what if the man forgets what to do? How does she remind him without creating conflict? She can't move him, but she can move herself. So if they are supposed to move to her back and his front, then she will simply step back without pulling him. If they are supposed to move to his back and her front, then she will step forward without pushing him. So he's nudged and reminded, but not led by the woman. Eventually, after much consultation, the woman went to her husband wearing lingerie and stood in front of the TV. She said, I'm going to the bedroom. You can join me or not. She went, and off went the TV as he laid down the remote to follow her. Khadijah, as we all know, was really smart, brilliant, wise, and smart. I know I'm repeating myself, it's called emphasis. Some claim that she took her friend, who in modern terms could be described as the female version of a wingman, but again it's also reported that she didn't consider marriage until her friend Nafisa saw her face light up when she described Muhammad. Either way, she sent her to her love interest, and the friend asked him with a certain softness to the effect of, "So why aren't you married? Are you not interested?" To which he replied, "Yes, I am interested, but I don't have the means." He had also rejected previous proposals, but she presumably smiled back. "Well, what if that wasn't a problem?" she said, or asked. She then made it clear that Lady Khadijah was available for him if he was interested. He had this look of delighted shock and was pleasantly amazed because it didn't even occur to him that she might be interested, as he considered her to be way out of his league. If you think about it, he's the total opposite of a pervert, because lewd men who are demented from their obsessive lusts are presumptuous, but not this decent man. This news completely made his day, and he was elated. He immediately sent his uncle to approach her, showing that he was that into her. So this is another lesson for the sisters. If a man is interested, he will show straight away that he's keen and pursue it directly, and that's what he did. He wasted no time. His uncle went to her with this pitch in earnest. My nephew doesn't have a lot of money, but he's completely trustworthy. This she already knew, and the negotiations began. She didn't make herself that easy to attain. The man had proven himself and had earned her trust through a variety of activities and observations. Lobola and dowries are good acts of faithful intention as long as the fiancé isn't being exploited. But there has to be some sort of test or initiation. For Muhammad, it came in the form of demonstrated behavior. Some scholars say that she paid the dowry to him, and some say that his uncle paid a dowry to her. Either way, there was a contract and an agreement before intimacy was even considered. Like I said, and will say again, she was smart. He was too, although illiterate, like most people in his area at the time, but more importantly, he was decent. That is first and foremost what we should look for in a man if we have any sense. Then we have to discuss courageous intimacy. It takes strength to submit, and there's power in surrender. When women are resistant to men, it's fueled by trauma that hasn't healed. When she feels whole and complete, then she feels secure enough in herself to offer herself in complete trust to someone full of love and kindness. I remember the first time I put my face to the prayer mat and sank into intimate prostration. I had to overcome shyness, overcome my ego, and build up the courage to do so. It reminded me of the sun worshipping Queen Bilqis from Yemen, Africa, when she was approached by King Suleiman, when he called her to submit to God, the creator of the sun and all things. At first, she responded with a substandard counteroffer in the spirit of diplomacy, which amused him, while he made it quite clear that he didn't require anything from her, since his kingdom was incomparably greater than hers. He had her throne teleported to her or sent. Interpret that as you will. She recognized it, but noted that it was more decorated in jewels, which symbolized his intention to beautify and to empower her authority by submitting to the highest authority under his mentoring. She realized she had only two choices: vulnerability to destruction or greater success and fulfillment. She chose the latter, and accompanied Suleiman, upon whom there is peace, to his palace, where she saw what looked like a still lake. She approached with hesitation, not sure what weird rabbit hole she was to enter. I related very much to this part when confronted with the possibility of embracing Islam. It was scary and strange. I felt that I was entering into something and would never be the same again, as I sank into the unknown abyss of this surreal religion. What was I getting myself into? She timidly lifted her dress to dip her toe like a shy swimmer wary of the water, and tested its temperature nervously until her mentor informed her that it was solid. She felt the reflected glass support her and realized, like I did, that the truth is not something we step into, but onto. It may look surreal when we confront it, but when we step on the truth, we find that the clarity of truth that supports us, and there is nothing insecure or fluid about it. She repented as I did for her soul before moving on her spiritual journey of growth and closeness to her Lord. Khadijah's cousin Waraka was a monk and learned in both previous scriptures, conducted the wedding. Muhammad, in his shyness and lack of presumption, was about to leave his wedding after it was done and go home, to which he was kindly reminded by his wife that he was home. After they were alone, she had the security to tell him that she was his servant, knowing the man she was talking to be gentle and kind and mild. She felt safe enough in his presence to completely drop her guard. This is a statement that the poor modern day feminist can't handle in her broken heart of collected trauma accumulated. It's easier for her to thump her foot in protest and hold signboards, "I am woman, hear me roar," shouts the frightened girl. "I am your servant and I surrender," whispers with a warm hint, the mature woman fully developed in her soul and secure in herself. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is relinquish control. Mr. and Mrs. Stein stood in front of a judge in court to contest a speeding ticket. The judge asked tongue in cheek who the boss was in that relationship, and the elderly man who had been married to his wife for 40 years pointed to her. The interesting thing about him was that he was completely firm and secure in himself according to his body language. They lost their case because they were going over the speed limit, but they made their point. Only a very confident man with a lot of courage, confidence, strength, and guts of steel can relent in control of his woman and act as if he's on her leash, but really it's just an act, letting her think she's the boss. Strong, confident women do the same to their husbands, provided they aren't pharaohs from addiction or narcissism. Irrespective of how old Khadijah was in comparison to her new husband, attraction is a package where energy attracts. A woman of a certain value attracts and appreciates a man of a similar value. Other men were superficially drawn to her beauty and wealth, but these two had a deeper connection and saw their hearts mirrored in each other's affection and embrace. Attraction and repulsion are strung together by logical links in our subconscious, which we identify as intuition. I'll read that again and say it again. Attraction and repulsion are strung together by logical links in our subconscious, which we identify as intuition. Attraction and repulsion are strung together by logical links in our subconscious, which we identify as intuition. We forget that Khadijah's father may have been a good man of character. After all, look at the woman he raised and look at the man she was attracted to. He may have developed a lot of businesses, but his honor as a father who raised the station of his daughter is a greater honor. We don't remember his businesses or his wealth, nor do we care, but we remember the child he raised and how she impacted the world. Now, how is that for a lesson in priority? Some of us get psychic glimpses of our future spouses with such specific characteristics that are uncanny, which we keep to ourselves. But the greater lesson about Khadijah when it comes to marriage is that Khadijah knew how to receive. This is something that modern women struggle with, and she has been indoctrinated by the prescribed silliness that she must juggle and sweat to earn her keep. But we have to return to the flow of Allah's creation. Apparently, Hawaii has the lowest divorce rate in the United States, besides Ho'oponopono, don't know if I can say it, Ho'oponopono meditation. It's not surprising since they have a culture in the hulu dance, which teaches women to move after the drum and not with it. She waits for the beat with the philosophy that the tree moves after the wind touches it and not before or during. Likewise, a feminine spirit is responsive to the leading element, not anticipating it with anxiety. By the way, if you look up Hawaii in Arabic, it reads as breezy tropical. Remember that Arabs found the Americas before Columbus. Perhaps that's where the natives got their tawhid in the respect of the Great Spirit, but I digress. A wise woman knows that she has the right to be relaxed and happy. Not only that, but the feminine spirit that flows through the earth and smiles in the light benefits others in her soft maternity. And yet she's been tricked into fighting for the quote right to be enslaved by employment instead of being an investor and having assets like a business or a husband providing her passive income and protection. Men who are investors with assets make a point of going on holiday with their families so that they enjoy their loved ones. They work so that they can spend time with their families, but our school system and economic structures don't support this dynamic for men, making it harder for them to be assets to women and then still trapping women into similar roles, which throws things further off balance for only the corporate pharaohs to benefit. Khadijah entrusted her husband with the responsibility and affairs of her business. He in turn increased her profits, protected her interests, and was there as a presence of partnership for her. So let's look at the marital masters. The best way to express this is to look at and discuss the research of Dr. Gottman and his wife. He's a scientist and has studied married couples for decades to the point where he can predict divorce with over 95% accuracy. She, on the other hand, is a therapist with an interest in helping people, so naturally his work has been used to assist many people with their relationships. They discussed the four things that cause divorce in relationships, which they call the four horsemen of the apocalypse. The first is criticism, which often leads to the second, which is defensiveness, then contempt, and finally stonewalling. Criticism has to be replaced by instruction and affirmation. We know that she had plenty of practice in these areas, as you're not going to get the loyalty of so many men from a misogynist society without these skills. Instead of being defensive, they both had accountability, and both were known to have these traits. Neither of them was contemptuous. They were loving and caring people who were concerned for each other, even opening their homes to others in need. Instead of stonewalling, there was engagement and intimacy between the two of them. She was incredibly nurturing and supportive, but more evidence of that is found in the next chapter, inshallah. She even gave him space to spend time in the man cave, like a literal cave for a man. She adored him and leaned towards him. But even though she had his back, there was another very important thing that she provided for him, as mentioned: space. She gave him space. Again, remember the no contact rule. It's what many relationship coaches recommend to women, specifically after they have been dumped by men who weren't happy in the relationship. It started as a therapy of healing, but they found, as mentioned previously, that women have an addiction to attention and get emotionally attached quickly. This happens because the emotional part and intimate part of the woman's brain are close together. It takes a woman about 3 months to heal if she applies no contact, and then she'll have to heal other trauma if there was fighting or abuse that has scarred her. They found with the man, the emotional side of his brain and the intimate side are far apart. Men sometimes don't know how they feel about women until they have experienced some space from them. It makes sense if you consider that all of our ancestral forefathers were hunting, fishing, exploring, and disappearing into the wilderness, far from their families. Since the industrial age, there has been this unhealthy imbalance of men working in factories and then cooped up with their families until they go out with the boys, leading to all sorts of mischief and problems. When a man is apart from a woman, then he has the space and time to catch up to his emotions and realize that he might actually love and miss her. If he is an introvert, then his nervous system might get exhausted by constant interaction at work and home. This is especially true if he's not living his true calling in life. A woman might take it personally if he wants to get away, especially if her love language is quality time, but people also need time to themselves. Khadijah understood men in general and had plenty of experience working with them and setting them with other women, according to enough scholars. She may have had marital experience with two men who passed away, so that would have made her even more of an expert. She also knew that her husband was trustworthy and there was something special about him. He was different from other men. After all, if she didn't believe that then, she wouldn't have selected him above all other suitors. Between sound logic and quiet intuition, she good graciously allowed him to seek retreat in the mountains so that he could clear his head and think properly after much hustling and dealing with the logistics of the worldly world. It seems his sensitivity that attracted so many came from a deeper place and yearning to connect to something. He had a lot in his mind and needed the break to meditate. He found himself in a cave, which is and has always been a heavy symbol as a womb leading to rebirth from the earthly material plane upon exit. He had been tested, observed, checked, engaged, and tried by his wife, who came to know him and trust him well. But not with all her brilliant sass could she have ever imagined or perceived what would happen next. She knew he would never get into trouble during his night visits. She wasn't worried if he was the type to abandon her, but something profound would happen that would have huge ramifications. on man and womankind, something that would lead him to a great destiny and lead to her demise after much struggle as the rejected woman. To be continued, inshallah.